Oh yeah, we're recording. Okay, hello guys. This is Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM Reacts episode 325, and today we're reacting to Tales Podcast episode 7. Now, I haven't gone reacting to this. This is gonna be my first reaction to Tales Podcast. It's been since the first episode of Tales Podcast since I never done reaction video to it. But my first impression to Tales Podcast is that I have never seen it before. But until now, like the body and the voice of BJ, I have watched so many episodes of Tales Podcast, and I'm like freaking out right now. But I'm like, okay, this is amazing. And what amazed me as a kid is, okay, I love Barney, but, that's just me. But anyway, that's just my story behind Barney, but I'll get to that in a few moments, but, anywho, we're going to react to this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Continuing our look now at the best in children's television. This morning, the new kid, or dinosaur on the block.
So the big purple reptile that kids can't resist.
The big purple
dinosaur.
Teaches about love and it just kind of like soothes the kids.
And always, there's that signature song.
You found us. Purple Tales Podcast. And I have become a believer. I get chills, Carrie, Barney Stinson. I'm Nancy
love it,
J.
Nancy. I love it.
It's crazy. It's truly amazing. How the heck are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm fine. What's new besides your shirt?
Well, I'm glad you noticed.
Yes, and you're all pressed and neat and clean. I like it.
Yes,
Looks good.
yes.
Looks good.
It's just been another amazing week. Hearing from all the fans has been incredible. We've got some really neat special guests. People coming in soon. They'll be flying in. We're going to be doing some remotes. Maybe one from New York and someone that's on Broadway right now. So very
Maybe
exciting.
Los Angeles.
Possibly,
anywhere in the world.
yes.
That's what's so nice.
Yes.
Anywhere in the world, we will find you.
Absolutely.
Carrie will find you, okay?
Absolutely.
So,
I know we've gotten some great comments. I know you had a really cool one from
Malachi.
Okay.
Just the enthusiasm and how much they love Barney, and they're energized again. It's so exciting. I know you've been getting several messages.
This is from Phoebe. I love this. Thanks. I don't want to read the whole thing. It's
Sure,
short.
absolutely.
Thanks for another great podcast. I'm a college freshman. She's 18, 19.
Sure.
And Barney is the basis for my enthusiasm and loving behavior towards others. It's sad that this generation would rather watch a show about hyperactive puppies than Barney. So I think she is post-millennial,
Right.
or Generation Z or
Sure.
something. But thank you, Phoebe. I love hearing that.
Phoebe.
I love hearing that.
I do too, and you're noticing that. The millennials are really responding to this show, and it's so exciting.
Well, and so is the rest of the country.
Yes.
You have a huge following in Canada.
Yes.
I know you've been doing a lot of press
I
up there.
have.
Tim is from Miami, Florida. He's been listening to us in Miami. He may be retired, living down there.
Possibly,
he may be the grandfather type.
yes.
I don't know, Tim. And then, let's see, this was from Jordan Smith. He said that it's so much fun to hear the behind-the-scenes stories of the shows that ruled his youth. He says, I'm a father now, and seeing my daughter's face light up every time she sees Barney and her friends is truly a wonderful feeling.
Well, isn't that interesting and neat that, if you think about it, back in the day when we were doing that, those parents didn't have that perspective, right? They were seeing their kids, but until Barney came out, until the characters came out, and they saw the children's face. But now, these parents were the ones that saw that originally, and they have this new perspective, which I think is just incredible.
It's amazing how much Barney and Friends meant to these kids growing up. And we've had so many comments about when I'm feeling down or when I'm being ashamed at school or being, they will go and find Barney.
Absolutely. And just when they need a moment of love, they'll go listen to I Love You, or they'll listen to some of these songs. And
I was trying to think, Carrie, what was my passion as a kid? I mean, I wish I had a Barney. I mean, I'm definitely a baby boomer.
Sure.
And the only thing I could think of, but at least there are two Bs, Barbie and the Beatles. So, those were my passions.
Right.
But I didn't have a Barney, and I wish I had.
Well, I'm very, 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 very fortunate because mine was Mr. Rogers, and I actually got to meet Mr. McFeely, Speedy Delivery,
No.
and then Sesame Street and Big Bird, and I actually got to work with Carol Spiney, who was the original Big Bird, and that was just my moment. So I can kind of understand what they're going through because I went through it. It was incredible.
Wow.
Well, I guess maybe I will just throw this out. When I got to meet Paul McCartney, that was my moment. Okay, so there we are.
Yeah, that would be my moment too. That's very awesome.
That's pretty darn cool. Okay, I'm gonna throw something out. See if you can recognize who this might be.
All right.
I just dropped my glasses.
Uh-oh.
Excuse me.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. I am a baby boomer. I need readers.
That's all good.
So, here it is. I have had the honor and privilege of working with fill in the blank for almost 20 years, and she has been unrelentingly hardworking, dependable, incredibly creative, amazingly talented, and a hell of a lot of fun. I guess I can say that because this comes from the resident director, Fred Holmes of Barney and Friends. So who do you think I'm talking about here?
Okay.
Well, now you've thrown me off.
Who is your first guest?
Well, my first guest. This is exciting because it's actually two guests. These very, very, very special to my heart. I was in the trenches with them for a long time, and we have Patty Wirtz and Kyle Nelson, the voice actor and the body of BJ.
And Kyle, who said to me about this upcoming show, get your popcorn ready.
Yeah.
He might have brought popcorn too, knowing Kyle. It's very possible.
No, I didn't.
I'm kind of disappointed, actually.
Sorry.
Okay.
So Kyle and I were actually on the road together for 4 years before he came and did the TV show. And Patty's the original voice of BJ.
Yeah.
And she does all the talking for you.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kyle Nelson. It's just a course of habit.
Yes. Yes.
We're going to let you talk, though. How about that?
Nancy's trying to figure out what just happened there. What in the world was
Wow,
that?
that is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's start out with, so when did you start with Barney?
1993.
Okay. How did you get involved? How did you get that job, Patty? Because you were a voice actor.
I started out as a stage actor, and I seemed to continue my affiliation with children's theater and children's entertainment because I was over at Casa Mañana in Fort Worth with their children's theater program for 7 years. I was a resident actor and played everything from the Goose to the Spider in Charlotte's Web to the lovely but deadly roles. I used to call them every evil queen and everything. So
Yeah.
I had done a lot of stage work. And then I had an agent in Dallas, and I segued somewhat over into voiceover work. And my agent called one day and said, they're trying to cast for this show Barney, and they want a new character to come on. It's an 8-year-old boy dinosaur. Can you do that? And I thought, well, who knows what that sounds like? So I went over to Allen. They were auditioning over at Color Dynamics. And I walked
That's Allen, Texas.
in Allen,
Yes.
Texas. And I walked in the room. They had already had one round of auditions for the character, and they hadn't found what they wanted. And I walked in, and the room was full of people. And I thought, oh boy, oh well, it's a
Wait,
drive.
you said what? How did you say it?
Oh boy. And so I waited for my time. I was the last person to go in. And I auditioned for Dennis DeShazer, who was the executive producer, and Jim Rowley, who is the senior producer and also directed a lot. And it was very funny because when I was doing my voiceover work and I was trying to do some marketing, I had sent a cassette to Color Dynamics. And you know how it is. You send stuff off and you think, never heard anything back. And they had me do a little reading and I can't remember what else. And then Dennis pulls out that cassette tape and goes, well, there was a little bit on your tape here that we liked the sound of, and we kind of want to hear you do the BJ voice. And it was a spot for Schweiger's Bologna. So I was like, okay. And so they worked with me a little bit. They had an idea of what they wanted. And I had a nephew at the time, JD, who was about 8 years old. And so I kind of channeled him a little bit. We worked with it, and at the end of the audition, I felt really good about things.
Yeah.
And I got a call like 2 days later. So, and
Now, how much did they, when what became BJ's voice, how much of that was you? How much did they tweak?
you know, it developed a lot over time because they told me what they wanted. I would give them some lines. They'd try a little bit this, a little bit
Right.
that, more raspy, less raspy. And it took a while for that voice to really settle in. It was at Radio City when I was performing live and I couldn't think about
And
it
that's
too
the
much.
show I was at. That's where
We've heard about
we
that.
worked
yes.
together back in 1994.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when we were in New York at Radio City and I couldn't overthink it and we were performing live, that voice settled in. And it still developed a little bit because I had to get to the point where I knew I wasn't doing any damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Sure. And Nancy, you're also noticing, you know, she said I sent a tape and never heard back. You're hearing that story week to week because they were just absolutely so overwhelmed.
Yes,
of
and
having to
everyone
hire all
was
these
kind of
people.
like, yeah, I wasn't sure I was even going to get the job. I didn't get a call for a year,
Right.
something like that.
and I had sent it to Color Dynamics, not to Barney, just to, because I thought they did some in-house probably
Well, they did.
training and that kind of thing.
They did.
So I was like, okay, I'll send it to Color Dynamics. Didn't know they were didn't know what Barney was. So that when I got the call, it was totally like, okay. But it was serendipity.
And you had some connections already with some of the people involved that you
Yes.
found out about
Yes,
afterwards.
yes. Julie Johnson, who was the voice of Baby Bop, she and I had done Nonsense together on stage at Casa Manana, had known each other for years, and we're actually good friends. And then Bob LaValle, who was
Wow.
a set designer,
Mhm.
had been a set designer at Casa Manana when I was in the children's theater program. So, yeah, big connection there.
And Bob's
Yeah.
going to come play here soon.
Is
So
he?
we're, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
he's so talented.
So, Kyle, you're listening.
And you notice, by the way,
I'm talking.
you notice also Nancy was sitting on the desk down there. We had such reaction to all these dolls each week, and we have more of them, more plush.
Yes, that is BJ. We have a singing BJ as well.
Well,
Yes.
I think both of them were trying to represent a little bit more after Jeff came in here on the whole Baby Bop thing and gave
Yeah.
no love to BJ.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
none.
But I'm just wondering, Kyle, you're listening to Patty talk.
Yes.
Do you want to start moving your mouth? Do you just kind of feel like she is inside your head?
There is an element of just silliness that when in costume, we feed off of that energy, and we try and think of things that would allow others to laugh, and that really helped break the ice, especially when we would be on set for long periods of time, and we just wanted to kind of get everyone laughing, get everyone going, and
Yeah.
I even to this day, I just cherish those memories.
Yeah.
How did you get the job?
Well, unlike Patty, I never had a theater background. I took theater in high school my senior year, and in 1997 I graduated from Fargo South up in North Dakota, and we have annual Little People conventions every summer. So I would attend these every summer, and it would be for about a week at a time, around 4th of July. And the last day of the convention, I'm checking out of the hotel, and a friend of mine, Jennifer Romano, she had played Baby Bop on the stage show tour. And she told me in passing, like, hey, Kyle, I think you could try out for this character named BJ on our Barney tour. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and then she's like, Barney the Purple Dinosaur. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get what you mean. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And gave her my information, and then I flew back up to North Dakota, not thinking much of it. And 3 days later, after that convention, I get a phone call from the studios in Las Colinas, and a very kind lady named Lynn Corzine. She's an assistant to the executive producer, Sloan Coleman. Just very pleasant Texas accent. She's like, hey, how's it going?
It's much bigger than that.
I can't replicate it. But,
You can probably get it.
Come out, wherever you are. Yeah, Julie Johnson.
yes.
but yeah, Lynn Corzine told me that they would love to fly me down to Texas to audition for the role of BJ. And I had already signed up for courses to attend Bethany Lutheran College in Mankato, Minnesota, and I was explaining to my mom, like, oh, what do you think? Like, what should I do? And she's like, just try it, see what you think, and you never know. And so I flew down, and I auditioned. Unlike Patty, I only auditioned with 2 other little people, and they were a little taller than I. And I went in there for my turn. I was in front of a gentleman named David Cobb, Penny Wilson, and Sloan Coleman.
Miss Penny.
Miss Penny.
Yeah.
And so they had me put on the shoes and put on the head after Miss Penny had taught me the choreography. And I'm just kind of running through as best I could and following the music and the choreography. And then I get out of my shoes and out of the head, and I'm sitting with them, and Sloan is explaining the logistics of this tour and what's going on, like how long the tour is. It's 8 months.
Okay.
And you'd be going to here and here and here, and the whole time I'm like, this sounds great. What does this mean? Like, oh, you got the job. You and I, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I gotta cancel my courses. I need to call my mom. It's like, just wondering, like, how do I go about all of the changes that are about to happen for me? And so we proceed to leave together out of the studio room, and I'm thinking that Sloan and them, that they're going to kind of keep it on the down low, and Sloan just. Once you get to meet her,
You'll understand there's no down low.
like,
Sloan Coleman. She stays on 11.
She proceeds to come out. Well, everybody, Kyle here got the job, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, and so it was like immediate, like, all right, guys, well, we'll see you later, and have a good one. And they already had a taxi set up for us. And we just proceeded to go out, and I'm with these 2 other guys who obviously didn't get the position, and we're in the taxi driving to the airport, and I'm sitting in the front seat, they're in the back seat, and they're like talking about, like, all right, well, I guess I'll go back and work and this odd job and try and audition for the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm like, I want to get out of this car. So we proceed to DFW Airport, and fortunately I was the first one out. I'm like, all right, guys, I'll see you later. I'm like, and I run to the nearest payphone and call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I got the job. What are we gonna do? And she's like, just experience it. Just do it. Like, you can go to college. Is gonna be there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. So like, that to me kind of gave me that first impression, like, everything's gonna be okay.
We had so much fun with him because, well, first of all, part of the reason he got that job is he is so athletic. He's very athletic.
And that is BJ.
Yeah,
athletic.
and being on that tour and all the running and everything involved with it, I mean, he was built for it. He is a very athletic.
He can do.
Oh my goodness, we
Checks in the mail.
I can't even tell you how many times we challenge each other in all kinds of
Tell us.
different.
What kind of challenges?
Carrie and I, well, first of all, we have a lot in common. We both have an affinity for the Minnesota Vikings.
Skull.
And so we and the energy that we had and working on the stage show tour and working on set, and we just fed off one another.
And then what was our song?
We before we'd get out onto stage, we'd sing "I Wanna Fly, I Just Wanna Fly" from Sugar Ray, and so.
Oh,
So
I
just wanna fly. Come on, hi. So, the funny thing about it is, we're pumping ourselves up to then go out and do a number of, like, what makes a flower so pretty. So the transition of, like, high up tempo energy to, like, just like pleasantry and. Yes, we were that odd.
Those 2 songs kind of work together.
Yeah, Sugar Ray's going to put that in to be a mashup now. Yeah. You'll see him on Kimmel doing it.
But having the suit on for both of you,
Yeah.
did that make you feel a little invisible?
Well, I think that at first I didn't have as much of an understanding to, like, my surroundings. So I just kind of would go with it, and then like later on realized like, okay, I need to approach my space here and more carefully. But I would understand that as I got used to my blocking and our performance and choreography, it just became customary. But there would be occasions in which we'd come off stage right, stage left, and I would proceed to run to the pit after my part, and not knowing Carrie was doing the same. We'd run, and we would just we'd collide into one another.
Oh my gosh, we knocked each other out. And, where was that, in Alabama? We ran as hard as we could, and we didn't see each other, and you cold cocked me, and
It was, I want to say it was like North Carolina or something. But so it's dark behind the stage, and I recall one occasion in which there's a lighted corridor, and we're proceeding to go there because that's where our dressing space was, and obviously Carrie and we bottlenecked into it and then collide, and we're laid out on the ground, and Shauna Mast, who at the time she was our costume tech, she's in the background like, "You idiots!" and I'm like, oh yeah, I understand, but that kind of spontaneity,
we were boys and brothers. I mean,
yeah,
we were and did all that all the time. But the other thing is, what were you, 19?
19 when I started.
So and from North Dakota. So he'd seen nothing. So we had so much fun taking him and showing, not a little green.
Fresh from the cornfield.
Yes. So you can imagine how much fun we had with him.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I thinking and listening to Josh Martin and his interview, I relate to him very much in that my experiencing starting Barney, I was very naive in a sense. Just the experience in itself not only taught me a lot, but it really changed me. Understanding my responsibility in my job in regarding what Barney really represented, I needed to uphold that. And I really felt that sense of responsibility as I became to understand how much Barney was an effect on other kids, and especially kids of special needs. And they really gravitate because, like Carrie said, and they have that unconditional love, and they can and they have a distinct ability to discern like what is truly kind, and Barney emulates that, and that's why I see a lot of them how they gravitate to that.
That's something that Carrie, I know, upholds. I mean, that's so important to you.
Absolutely, and that's why this has been so great each week, because you notice that they're all, I'm not coaching anyone to say these things, they all felt these experiences and saw these experiences. And it's funny because they technically worked together for 4 years and really had met.
Yeah.
I mean, when did you meet Kyle for the first time?
I can't remember. Honestly.
Well, the first time I met you, it was for a compilation video.
Okay.
And we were filming in Allen, and funny story to that is we were on tour, and I was taking a late night flight, and the flight was delayed.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into Dallas until like some crazy wee hour in the morning. And so they thought that I still wasn't there. But yeah, I was at the hotel. and I had to contact, like, hey guys, I'm here, I'm ready, is anyone
Come and pick me up.
and like, yeah, we'll be right there. And so that was our first experience. I forget, it's like Barney, like Dino Dance. It's like with a jukebox, and they did a compilation of songs.
Yes. Okay, I'm remembering. Yeah. Oh, and he's fabulous. When he was talking about taking his responsibility seriously, always 100%. You know, you can, during a rehearsal when heads are popped and things like that, the guys could mark. They had to before they got, but once cameras were rolling, he brought so much energy and so much positive energy. And then that's what's wonderful is you build off of each other that way. And plus, him being a little younger, he was a little bit more hip.
Okay.
Here we go.
Then the housewife from Hollyville. Yeah. So, he would come in and have movement, and he could rap. he was referring to things that were a little bit more timely, and that brought me along with him too, because I had to keep up.
But
Yeah.
I find, well, with BJ, and BJ was characterized as a 7-year-old dinosaur. So I think he was kind of in that gray area of like showing kind of a sense of adolescence, being that big brother to Baby Bop, but then yet still being a youthful dinosaur that is learning lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So it could go either way.
For a while there, it was like, what, you're lying again, BJ? It was like a lot of lessons every week.
Let's break into a song.
We have to have an intervention.
So, Patty, you also did all the singing. I mean,
Yes.
you did. I mean, everything we hear.
Yeah, and the singing was challenging. That was the hardest thing for me at first. Yeah.
What song? Any song that was difficult?
Rock and Roll Star.
Oh yeah.
That was a challenge because it was very high energy and it had a lot of range.
And how did that go?
Rock and Roll Star.
Oh yeah.
I can play my guitar. I just want to be a rock and roll star. Yeah.
So you're singing and you're having to act the song, act to her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of
Dino
fun.
Sync.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we I think
Nancy wants to know what
What
Dino
is
Sync
Dino
is.
Sync? I was like, what?
So
I'm
I'm in the booth and Kyle's out on the set. And in my booth, I would have
Yeah, I'm sorry.
a quad split monitor. So, and my headphones. So I would be looking at the monitor, and we had an additional
Patty.
monitor, which was
Oh,
there we
my.
go. There's my booth.
Oh, we have a picture up. Yeah.
They'll never break me. That's right. But I had decorating magazines, so I was fine. But
She
anyway,
did.
I did. But we'd have the monitor, and I could see Kyle, and then he had me in his ear.
Yeah.
So,
But we all had you. There wasn't separate.
Oh, really?
No, we had all of them in our ears.
all the time.
All the time. There was no mute button for us.
Yeah.
There
And
was a click. Oh, you'd have to click off.
we were a chatty group too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but anyway,
So I know all about decorating now. By the way, I've learned all kinds of things. I could decorate
Think of this.
I could decorate a 3-bedroom house you wouldn't believe.
Who knew?
Yeah. Thanks, Patty.
So you had to make sure that you were doing what she was saying, or did you say what you needed to say to make sure that's what he was doing? I mean, how did
Yes.
all this?
Exactly.
Is that
I would
the
say-
dino syncing?
Yeah, for me, early on when I started, I had to identify how I needed to really break words into syllables. And in the costume, it's a 3-piece costume. So I have the body, torso part, and legs, and then I'd have my shoes, and then the head was separate, unlike Barney being a 2-piece. And so the way I would have to manipulate the mouth, I would have to adjust it, and it would be on spring hinges, and so then as I'm moving at any point in time, it could cause the mouth to move. So I would have to be careful in like really stabilizing my upper body when in motion, so that when the mouth would not move, it would be intentional. But when I started the stage show tour, I everything was already pre-recorded. So
Yeah.
The show was the same every night.
yeah.
There's no ad-libbing whatsoever.
So, fortunately for me, early on, Miss Penny, who was our choreographer, she really taught me how to pace my syllables, and she would critique me as needed, and that really helped me become more understanding of at what point in time is my pauses and my breaks looking realistic outside of costume. And so after I'd be able to see myself on video, I'd be like, okay, I see, I have to make this adjustment in order to make my mouth move open 2 or 3 times to time the syllable. And when working together on set, when it would be live, it would just I guess I became more aware of just how you would enunciate words and your pauses and breaks, and it would be hilarious. It would just
Yeah,
be
it
fun.
was.
Kind of spooky almost sometimes
Yeah.
because I could see him make a little move,
Yeah.
especially for ad libs.
Yeah.
Because you find out that on the songs and things, even if there's a lot of action going on the set, if it was a music break or something, if there wasn't vocal response going on, it fell a little flat. So we ad-libbing, and he would just pick right up.
Well,
you know,
and
go
we
right
were
in.
looking at one last week on the swimming. We were talking about the swimming show with Shelley last week, and unfortunately, we didn't get to show the whole clip, or we didn't get to show the clip. But at the end of that,
Oh,
what did you do?
Well,
When BJ's trying to get in the pool and Barney's knocked out all the water,
oh yeah. Well,
and he's got that floaty. You don't remember that?
No.
With the turtle?
no, I don't.
Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
iMovie.
Yeah, what did she say?
It's something like oh boo hoo, but like
She goes, "Oh, turtle." She
yeah.
which was not in the script at all. And of course, we're in the costumes laughing. I mean, because we don't know this is coming either. So they would do this kind of stuff all the time. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
so she couldn't hear you all. I mean, you didn't have any way to communicate with anyone.
No, there was mics on the set for the directors to talk to them. So if we needed to, we could come over to the directors and say, let them know.
You could be like,
I knew
We
this or that.
also were able to learn some hand signals that we
Yes.
could.
with your little arms, little
yeah.
Barney arms.
Yes. I perfected that move.
Well, wasn't it tempting then, Patty, to say some things into their heads
I
on
would never
occasion?
do that. Heaven
come
forbid.
on.
Thank goodness for mute buttons, because it muted us to the set. The kids could not hear us, but they could hear everything. And
Oh, my.
We used to call it both with Bob West, and I think we called it the same thing. But especially with Bob, I remember we called it a steeplechase, because one of us would make a smart remark, and then Julie would go, and then I would go, and we just wanted to make them laugh. I mean, it was
But there
it's
would
so
be,
much fun.
There would be times where they'd be, boy, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little hot in here. You know, they'd be talking in their booths. Boy, it is hot. It is so bad in here.
Yeah, and you know what? I broke a nail.
Yeah.
No.
And the food, didn't you always tease them about the food?
Especially on when we went down to Florida and we were shooting at Universal Studios. We were doing a video down here, and we did it on purpose because there was this amazing craft services table right behind the voices. And so we take our cans. Oh yeah.
Boy, that sun looks hot.
Oh yeah, can you bring me another one of those cookies, Julie, when you come back? How you doing there, Kyle? And we're merciless.
And I'd be like, what?
And we were on set. It used to be, it happened on a regular basis. If Dean Went, who is the voice of Barney, had tortured Gary too much, all of a sudden the green room door would fly open, and then the door back into the voice booth would fly open, and then Dean
We
would
just have a talk. That's all.
Dean would go back and give Carrie would go back and give Dean a special hug.
Yes.
Would one call that a body slam, perhaps?
One might.
Possibly. I don't remember exactly what happened, but
But it's a visual I'll never forget, because I'd stick my head out of my booth to watch, and there would be Barney coming down the hall.
All three of you were never seen
no.
as yourselves. So what was it like in the real world once you took the costumes off, once you got out of the booth and you're talking to people? Did you tell them what you do for a living?
No, I didn't.
My mother tells everyone. So, she's got it covered. That's okay. I don't.
I think Josh made a good point. It's kind of like at your discretion.
Yeah.
So when on the stage show tour, we would finish our show in an evening or afternoon, and we could proceed to leave the venue, and no one would know
Yeah,
otherwise.
especially for us on the road, because we'd be walking out with 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And they have no clue. They've just seen us on stage.
Yeah. However, like as little people,
Right.
the parents would kind of put one and one together, like so and so. I think that's it, and then we proceed like, okay, let's go. But yeah, no, that was the great thing is that we're incognito, and we
That's great.
and we would just go about going back to the hotel and be like, all right, that was our job.
Yeah.
Still.
And your wife actually was touring with you at some point, but we need to know, when did you get this wife? When, I mean, a kid. You were a kid when you started, so how did this happen?
They provided me.
Smitten take.
No. So
That's part of that Barney magic. Man.
She came out of the bag.
job
He had no
security.
idea what he was signing
Oh
up
my
for.
god. Oh my god. Okay.
What is this in my contract?
Oh my god.
I said
So-
blonde.
So I have to say, the way in which my wife came about working with Barney, it was kind of bittersweet. A friend of mine who, Ronald Lee Clark, he played Baby Bop, of which my wife replaced him.
Baby Bop on the road.
Yes, on the stage tour.
On the stage tour with us.
He was a dear friend of mine, and so
Well, he's been on, what was the show?
he's
the-
Pit Boss.
Pit Boss.
Yeah, but he's
yeah.
also been on a variety of different movies.
Yes.
I can't think on the top of my head,
But yeah.
so during break in between our stage show tour, Sloan Coleman had contacted me and asked me, and can you give us any resources or friends of yours that would want to do special events or photo shoots and such? I'm like, oh, of course. So I'd given her a list of names and phone numbers, and so of which one of them would be my wife, Jael Nelson, and she after being contacted, I guess she had gone down to Las Colinas and auditioned for them just to see if she would get this position, and I guess later in the audition or after audition, they were saying like, this audition is for a stage show tour production, and this is exactly what it would take place, when it would take place, and for how long. And she agreed to it, at which then she contacts me and says, hey, I'm going to be on the tour with you. And we befriended one another at the time, so we weren't technically dating, we were just good friends. And I'm like,
That's what
Then
they always
Then they
guys
got in
always
her
say
contract
that.
and she had no
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, Nancy, we'll have to have her on this show and see what the
Give her
story.
side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what her contract was.
but yeah, she went on the tour with me, and it was a blast. And I proposed to her.
We all of a sudden,
Oh.
Nancy, we all of a sudden didn't see Kyle as much as we did in the early days.
Okay.
Yeah, things did change in a way, and
Yep.
yeah, I proposed to her in Wheeling, West Virginia, and funny story is when everyone else got to find out that I proposed to her, and she was wearing a ring. Antoine Steele, who played counterpart to Carrie,
After Josh Martin.
Okay.
So Josh had left the tour and Antoine came in.
so we're in catering, and I still remember it to this day. When he found out, he's like, Jill and Kyle get married, Jill and Kyle get married, like, running around the catering room. And it was funny. It was a lot of fun.
So, Patty, let's talk about some of these things you brought. Kyle, you brought some
yes.
things too.
Yes.
Each week, everyone's bringing their own
So,
Barney bag.
Kyle, did doing BJ, did it give you a big head?
Oh, never.
Now, if you're just listening to this as a podcast,
You might want to go to YouTube.
yes, I mean, but everything is very yellow.
It is
Right?
so yellow.
Yep, and you still got the tags on these
I
things.
do. You know, what am I going to do with it?
eBay.
Yeah, eBay. I allow myself one bin of stuff. So this was so unique.
It's like a pillow. It's like
squishy,
a
yeah.
squishy, yeah.
Yeah. And so we've got this, and then of course we have. This is cute. I love this one. This is one of the little plushes. It's BJ and his PJs.
Kyle, do you see yourself in these animals?
Fortunately for me at the time, and being young, a lot of the product that I would get, I would give to my nieces, and
You fool. No.
I did keep some products. One of which, when we were in Mexico, down there they would sell a lot of counterfeit product, and so
Which the counterfeit products down there are unbelievable.
Like good or bad?
Unbelievably good. And I mean, it's not just for Barney, like anyone, the Rolling Stone, they.
Drugs.
But it's amazing.
It's a flush of Mick Jagger, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
the flush of Mick. You haven't seen that yet?
I want to see that.
Kyle had one, but then he gave it away.
To my niece.
Yes.
Full circle.
But when we were performing in Mexico, we would be able to walk to the venue from our hotel. And so not far from the venue, there would be people on the street selling product. And I'm like, man, I want to get that BJ backpack. And even though it didn't look relatively close to an actual plush BJ, I'm like, you're never going to find this stuff anywhere else. And so I'm like, I still have it. I've just yet to find it.
And this one talks, right?
This one is sing along with BJ. Now I'll try and make him sing, but understand he's old. He's been around for a while. Let's see if I can press his belly.
Oh.
Watching the clouds go by, flying in an airplane, looking out the window, up so very high.
So now I have to sing along with him to make.
Well, but isn't that great, Patty? If you run out of batteries, you can just.
I can just sing
you can just sing it for yourself.
Too much time on my hands.
Do you remember all the songs?
You know, the songs stick with me probably more than anything else. You know how music is. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah, the songs. And then we would make up our own lyrics in the booth. So that was fun.
Can you share any of those lyrics?
Well, I know popcorn is really neat, fun to make, and we turned into hamsters. That was fun.
Wait, what?
Hamsters are really neat, fun to make and fun to eat. Yeah.
They had a lot of time on their hands. And this was in my ears, by the way.
Constantly.
I'd have to flip that button off every once in a
Jeff
while.
Ayers had a shirt that said, I do whatever the voices in my head tell me to do.
Yes.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, and Kyle, you brought some stuff too.
I've got these are our lanyards, so
And that would get you in wherever you
yeah,
need
our
it. right?
proverbial dog tags. But yeah,
Oh,
we got it
look at that.
for Barney's musical castle, and then when we performed in Mexico and Puerto Rico, and
You could buy, sell, and trade
and
them.
it's got pictures on the back. So
Oh.
I'm like, wow, like I was quite youthful.
You look exactly the
He
same.
does.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, you do. Cute.
And then,
What is that notebook?
and then we have this. This is our itinerary book. So as someone like myself at that time,
Was our tour Bible? You want to talk
Yeah.
about Bibles on the
Yeah.
Yeah.
tour?
Here,
It was
Pass
this right here.
I mean, so it's spiral.
yeah,
Lots. I mean, there are like tons of pages, and I mean,
So
there's
if you look at that each
venues
city,
and hotels and cities and
what
like-
nights we performed,
calendars.
what
Oh my gosh.
when we need to be on stage.
Did you ever,
if we
did
get
you
lost,
ever
who we call?
not know where you were?
Oh sure.
I had that happen
Oh,
one time when I was
absolutely.
touring. My mom was like, "Where are you?" I said, "I don't know. What state? I don't know." Especially with bus and truck.
Yeah, and our buses, they would let us sleep. So if we got into town, they would just leave the keys. Your hotel room key would just be there, and whenever you wake up, and you stumble and find the hotel and figure out where you are and go find some lunch.
Interesting way to live
Yeah.
for years. How many years did you do?
3.5
And
years.
Carrie?
5 years.
And Patty,
I
you never
never
did the
toured.
road.
Not with
Well,
Barney.
but she did Radio City.
I did
That you did
Radio
that one,
City.
so.
We did Florida. I'm trying to think of where. Oh, well, we did the movie in Canada.
Yes.
Okay. So we were in Montreal for a long time. I think I was there for probably 7 weeks. But we
And-
weren't shooting a whole lot. You know,
And
we had
then
a lot of night shoots. And
Orlando,
stuff,
we were there what, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
3 weeks?
yeah,
3
3
weeks.
weeks. That
We
was
were
a
all there for
fun
that
shoot.
one.
Because you could ride rides
At
between your
Universal
scenes.
Studios.
Yep, and it was like in February when it wasn't that busy,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we anytime in between. I'd
Yeah, where's Kyle?
he's,
Ride
over,
rides.
he's over at the Hulk.
Get him off the roller coaster.
Tough job. Oh.
What were your after years like now? What have they been since Barney for you, Patty?
Lots of time again in a small booth. But by myself this time, which is not nearly as fun. I have a little studio in my house, and I have an agent here in Dallas, Mary Collins Agency, and so I'm still doing voice work.
And you do some teaching too, don't you? Or is that or some
I
work
do.
with kids or
I have done some in the past. I'm not doing any currently, but I had taught a a few things, some acting classes for a while. I have some friends who teach, and every once in a while I'll go in. And in fact, I have one coming up the end of this month. A good friend of mine, and I go into her acting class, her advanced acting class, and do a session on voiceover work. And I bring my little setup, and I give the kids scripts and let them record, and we do little critiques and just talk about the business as far as production. Because now, when I started Barney and I was doing voiceover work, you would go into a studio, you know, your agent would send you, you'd audition and go into the studio and then do the spot and leave. Now, well, after I got out of Barney, 18 years later, the entire industry had changed. So now almost everyone has some kind of production facility that they can access in their home. You either have a real studio or you have just some equipment, and so
You can use a laptop.
that's what I use.
Yeah.
I do a lot. Most of the recording I do now, I do in my house.
So 18 years of Barney for you, Patty.
Mm-hmm.
What did those 18 years do for you after Barney? I mean, what was your takeaway?
You know, a lot of gratitude. That would be the first word that pops into my head. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, for the people I worked with. Just how many jobs do you have that you can do for 18 years and you want to go? You know, I didn't like the commute sometimes, but you look, my buds, but you love the people that you work with. Yeah, that was one time when we did the Today Show.
Tell us who is in this picture, Patty.
This is on the other side of Al. I'm there, and then Al Roker, and then Julie Johnson, who's the voice of Baby Bop, and Bob West, who's the original voice of Barney. And I just, both of them, dear, dear friends. And yeah, we got so many wonderful opportunities to go to New York and do Radio City and travel and shooting down in Florida, and just the friendships and the opportunity to be a part of something that was bigger than myself. You know, these guys have talked about the influence it's had on kids, but to have that unconditional, stable, loving role model that Barney is, and I've heard people compare him almost to like a grandparent, where he's not overly heavily disciplined. He's not disciplining, he's leading by modeling behavior. And so much of that, it's just so nice to have been a part of that, to do the Make-A-Wish thing. So gratitude would be my first thing. And then also on a personal level, that voice took some getting there, and it stretched me in a way that I'm like, okay, if I did that, I can stretch my voice and manipulate and you know, there are other things there that I can create if I was able to create that is so far from myself. So yeah, that was a good lesson.
Love hearing that.
Yeah.
Now, Kyle, how many years were you BJ?
12 years.
12 years. I mean, this is seriously, you all needed. See, I hit the mic. Sorry about that. You all needed like a gold watch or something at the end. Or did you get anything after these years of your Barney? No, not so
we
much.
got a lot of swag and
Okay.
a lot of gifts of sorts, and I
I have a Barney watch.
Yeah.
Literally a Barney watch. I still have it. Okay. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. But immediately after doing this family, wholesome tour and having this reputation as BJ, what did you do immediately after that?
Well, after completing the TV show, I wanted to continue pursuing my degree and completing that in education. And how that kind of came about, aside from working with Barney, I wanted to work part-time at my son's preschool. And so I worked in the after-school program with kids that would come to our preschool from different elementary schools, and I felt working with them and doing activities and just having fun being around kids. I just really felt like this is my calling. Like I want to become a teacher and work with kids. And and I still feel I'm a kid at heart, and
You are a kid at heart.
yeah. So I got my degree in education, and I currently teach special education for preschoolers.
So, and that's why you understand how important Barney is to special needs kids, even
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Stephen White talked about the part of the TV production where we have an educational department that that works with the producers and directors and explains what is developmentally appropriate for children of 3 years or younger, and that really played in well to the topics and the show's concept, that really gravitated to what parents liked. I think that a lot of shows today, and you see kind of little innuendos that are more adult oriented, but our funny Barney really went down a direction that was focused solely on the kids, and you are entertaining 3-year-olds, and so now as a teacher, I'm beginning to understand the other side, and working with kids and doing lesson plans. It's neat how I can incorporate themes of which have been used on a Barney show, whether it's a song or something.
See, did you know that?
Like, for example,
He just,
like this.
isn't that cool?
And what we're working on right now is a spring theme, and teaching kids about how in the spring flowers blossom and new life is created, and birds and lay eggs in the spring. And so
We
so
just talked about that.
And there's a song of and the green grass grows all around, and so I would incorporate that into my lesson plan, and I'm like, who to think? And I could use something that I've done before in my classroom, and it really works well, and I'm like Patty was saying, I'm just very grateful for that experience.
Did the parents know you were BJ, and or the kids? Did they know who you are?
Some of them, like when we would do our kind of meet the teacher night, I would have to do my little bio, and so it would come across like, you really played BJ? I'm like, yeah. so yeah, that and it's fun, and getting to talk to them about that and relaying to them those experiences.
Patty, same thing. You probably want to, I mean, you have a lot of people who will come up to you and find out that you are the voice. Do they think you are BJ, though? I mean, is
Yes.
that kind of that
Yes,
confusion
that
there?
happens a
Okay.
lot of the time. And I correct them. I always say, no, I didn't want to work that hard. These guys, I mean, let's face it. But people do, there's not a recognition factor, but here's an example. I went in to do an audition for it was kind of weird. It was like an audition for a spot, but it was a job. So I went in, and there were young people who were working in this studio, and they started slowly coming in and kind of looking, and then they were like, you were BJ? And here they are in their 20s. They were like little kids again, and it was the sweetest thing. So yeah, there is that kind of recognition that happens, and then I have a website, and I put on there, I'm proud of it. So
Yeah.
I do have that kind of in my bio that
Do you want to share your website?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
pattywords.com. Yeah,
That's easy.
that's pretty easy. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I mean, Carrie, same thing. When people find out you,
Yes.
I think I should start using the present tense. You are Barney.
Yes.
So people want to have their pictures taken and autographs and talk to you and touch you and do all sorts of interesting things.
That's right.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy, especially with Purple Tail podcast. I've been getting recognized, and we've been doing more pictures and
Sure.
giving out
Your
more money.
face is out there.
See,
Yeah,
that's
my
it.
face is there.
All of these faces. But see, that's it. All of your faces now are out there more than they have been in the past.
Right.
And they will continue to be out there. So you'll be because you probably never just stopped on the street unless you were in costume,
No.
right?
No.
Well, generally, I'll get stopped and be like, hey, like they'll say some random name like, isn't that, I'm like, no, I'm not Steve. And just because some people think like all little people are alike.
Aren't you on Game of Thrones?
Yeah, Game of Thrones. Yeah, speaking of Game of Thrones, that just came out with the final season of that. So there you go.
I watch it. It's a good show.
Kyle, there is something that you have forgotten to tell us. This was, let's see, was it something to do with a kind of a, I don't know, heavy metal rock musician that eats bats?
Well, so
Yeah, that was actually what after your first year.
So the neat thing,
I'm learning new things.
Patty, why wish you had the popcorn, right?
Yeah, really.
the neat thing about being on the tour production is you are working with a crew of people that are affiliated with other touring productions, and such as we've been told the Rolling Stones, U2, so on and so forth, and Jake Berry, who was our production manager or in charge of our Barney tour. He was, I guess, in conversation with Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne's wife, and she was needing little people for the upcoming 1998 Ozfest, and so
Okay.
I love it.
so
Again, there will be more explained about Ozfest in the end of the video. Continue.
So I guess in conversation, he's like, "Oh, I know some little people," and it just kind of was kind of happenstance. And he's like, "Yeah, well, let me contact them, and we'll get them in contact with your people." And so I forget. I think we're in like Oakland. It was towards the end.
It was
of the
Lee,
bar.
right? That went with you?
Yeah, Lee.
Lee Clark.
Yeah, he and I, we were at the venue, and the production assistant on tour with us, her name was Lori Berry, and she had told us, hey, there's this opportunity for you and Lee to do this Ozfest this summer. And like immediately I'm like, yeah, okay, and so that experience was another eye-opening experience in the sense of
No kidding.
not so much in the sense of like all the craziness that you'd witness, but like when you would go backstage and you get to know these people, these musicians and such, and really they're no different than anyone else. And they're like, I remember Megadeth was on that tour.
Barney Megadeth.
Yes.
Barney Megadeth.
BJ.
That's it.
And Dave Mustaine, the lead singer of Megadeth, and he's giving like insight and stories to all these other musicians about like save your money, like make good choices kind of thing. I'm like, that's awesome. He's a role model because
Yeah, he is.
he and himself.
Speaking of Dave Mustaine, he did recently, back in '81, he was hired from Metallica and became fired in '83 from Metallica and say, what, no war, no second chance? Well, explain that in the end of the episode as well. Continue.
And experienced some hard times of sorts, but
Well, and what about the change in audience
oh yeah.
that you went from?
Well, the funny story. So when we first started, we did a little kind of a test run when we were performing in Milton Keynes, England, and in front of 50,000 people, and it was amazing.
And what were you dressed as?
I was like a theatrical court gesture, and so we did that, and it was a lot of fun, and came back and knowing what I was getting myself into, and so we were in Homedale, New Jersey. There was 2 shows, and so I didn't realize enough at the time and how to remove makeup, and that there's such thing as makeup remover, and so after
You can't make this up.
so after I'm doing our little gig on set, basically what we were doing is kind of helping. And Ozzy had this squirt gun, and like more like a power washer, and he had his tea, and so Lee and I, we were supposed to kind of go out there and reset the squirt gun and make sure his tea and everything was good, and then we pranced back off stage. And I'm thinking about getting paid to do this.
Oh my!
So it was the first night after that. Like I'm washing, cleaning up, and at this venue we were sharing the same kind of dressing room space as Ozzy, and I just proceeded to clean up, and like like wash my face, and it's all getting my eyes. And like, this is stinging. And I get out, like trying to reach for my glasses. And I kid you not. And like everything's kind of a blur, and I'm looking up, like kind of in towel. My face is all messed up, and Ozzy comes in, and all I hear is.
Love the Aussie part.
Sorry. So, but after which, one of the makeup person for Ozzy, she helped me out. She's like, "Oh, you need cotton balls and makeup remover," and made everything easier.
Because you never had to worry about your face.
No.
Inside BJ.
Yeah.
Well, and Kyle, you have to tell a moment of. Kyle was the prankster on the road.
Yes.
And you and Dwayne?
Yeah, Dwayne, he was Old King Cole in our first tour production of Barney's Big Surprise. When I first started, being young and naive, I was the one that everyone would be like, this is the person that we're going to start hazing. And so I'm not thinking much of it. After I'm getting back into my clothes, I'm like, where are my clothes? And Dwayne, being the jokester he would take my jeans and my shirt up on the ceiling, and or he would sew my pant legs so I couldn't get back into them. When taking a shower, he would take a chest of ice and splash that on me. So
now what did you do back?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's still a turn. I realized
So it doesn't
quickly.
seem so bad.
I'm like, I need to return the favor, and so I'm thinking of things, and one of which Dwayne would play chess every day with David Voss.
David Voss was the original Barney.
Yeah, and then he would be a dancer as well on
Yeah,
the
he
tour.
toured with us as a dancer for.
There's David.
Yeah, there's David, and there's Miss Penny.
And some things.
Oh my.
Those are dearly
Cute
beloved
pictures.
people that I adore. So getting back to the story about Dwayne, I felt the need to take his king chess piece, and so for a period of time he's playing with some other random piece, and when out on stage, I very discreetly, and as Old King Cole is coming into appearance, and he's walking down this treehouse set, and I'm in position, like in the bowing position, because we're all bowing to him, and I have the king chess piece in my hand, and I turn it over, I'm like, who's the king now? And then,
which is something we could do because we could talk and no one would hear us.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Oh my
We didn't have
gosh.
mics, so we could talk on stage.
And you would still hear each other.
Oh, whatever it may be. Yeah, if we were about to run into each other or anything, we could talk to each other.
And then another occasion, we were on the tour bus, and we would get food and drinks and such, and some of the people on our tour wanted like organic stuff and wanted hummus, and some of this stuff would sit in the bus in our fridge for long periods of time, and it's like after opening the refrigerator, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that stench? And figured out it was this hummus, and so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I got this bright idea. So Dwayne's in his bunk, and so I take some paper towel and I smear some of this hummus on the paper towel, and then I tape it up in his bunk as he's sleeping. It's just like I'm
Nightmares.
fuming out of his bunk, and he's like, "What in the world is this?" So anyway,
And that's why his pants legs were so.
You know, no one is ever going to be able. Well, which is in a good way. Think about you guys. I mean, you all had fun. You had love. I mean, that's what matters here, right?
Yes.
Because you have to understand, we didn't have cell phones and smartphones, and we were gone. We were just
Yeah,
gone.
you guys were on the road.
We were on the road, and we were just together. Felt like 24/7. I mean, we were together all the time.
And when on the tour bus and you're trekking from one state to another for a period of 8-9 hours, you better get to know who you're working with.
Right.
And
Going
so,
to one way or
yeah,
another.
and so we're playing board games and just reminiscing and stories and people farting on the bus and be like, all right, I gotta leave. And like, proceeding to go to.
It's the hummus. You've got to stop the hummus.
Yes.
Oh my.
I don't think I'm going to ever eat hummus again. I'm thinking that's not going to be in my refrigerator. Is there something you would like to say to Kyle?
You're my better half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, just how much respect and love I have for him, and to be able to create that together. It was just wonderful. Best time
Yeah.
ever. You know?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
And a large part of that was because I could count on Kyle. You know,
Yeah.
just he was always there, always ready to go, give 100%. And I not only do I love him, I respect him a lot.
Thank you.
Any words you want to put into her mouth?
Oh yeah, for once. Huh?
Yes. No, Patty is always a joy to work with, and just like a big sister to me, and like in terms of when we'd be out on set, and I could hear it like, are you doing good out there? Do you need some Gatorade? And like you go take a break. I know you've been doing that dance number for the X number of times. I'm like, go take a breather, and I'd be like, okay.
Well, because they put, and Carrie was the same way. They'd push themselves, and then on break, they'd come out of those suits and they would be drenched, and you know, and there were times too when we were shooting outside, and it was hot.
Yeah.
That
Universal. You remember the bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
We don't know the bridge.
Sorry. So we had been shooting that scene at the magician,
the wizard,
the wizard,
wizard.
and they needed one more shot, and it was us. It was all three of the dinosaurs going across the bridge, and
It goes to Ants Go Marching.
no. There wasn't a song.
Okay.
All they need was a shot of us going over that bridge, and all of us were like, "You get one." That's all we had left. I mean,
Yeah.
both of us could hear each other.
Yeah.
And we did the one, and they said, well, we need another. And you hear Shauna go, yeah, it looks like you only got the one. They're gone. And we knew that. We would give everything we could, but if there was a point where we were hurting ourselves, we would just stop. We would stop. And we looked out for each other all the time. I mean, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking I feel the same way about both of them. I mean, we were all in the trenches together. Everyone was looking. I mean, she would look out for
Occasionally,
us.
I would get a little hot and thirsty. I was in the trenches.
Still.
But they understood.
Yeah.
They understood. They watched out for us very much, and
we would, even though it would be difficult, we would understand that it was a part of the production. Like, and if you're in front of one of these reflecting screens, and it's like taking a magnifying glass down to like an ant. Maybe like for me, like it's kind of like my upcoming of like when I was a kid doing those things.
You
like,
getting karma?
I was getting karma. I'm like, man,
Oh
this
my.
big reflective screen is the magnifying glass I need, and it's all coming back. But like we would identify that it's all a part of the production, and if it comes out, professionally, it was all well worth it because and that's what everything was about.
We've talked so much about the production and the insides and the outsides, but there really is Barney magic.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I think it has a basis in reality. I mean, I do believe in, when you get that kind of, I'm a big energy person. So when you get someone like Cheryl Leach, who, I don't know Cheryl well, but I've been around her enough. She is a person who has like an inner light. And she is just a lovely woman. And so she's Barney's mom. And when you have someone like that who is sort of the roots of the production, and then that energy attracts more people who are like-minded, not only are they good at their jobs, but they bring this wonderful quality into the production so that it becomes a joy to be there. And I felt that throughout the production. And it was just kind of a natural occurrence. I know that after I was hired, Dennis DeShazer said to me, we wanted you to be the voice of BJ and, bring everything you can to it, but we also hired you because we thought you'd be a great addition to our team, because we want everybody to be an ensemble, get along. And we did. And I just think when you have someone like Cheryl, and then you get Dennis, and then you get Jim, and all these people who are really good at what they do, and they also love being there. And it was magical. I mean, it was really very special. I, again, gratitude of just being able to have that.
Yeah, and for me, and you hear this a lot, just doing Make-A-Wish events, and it really gives perspective to what Barney really means. As a teacher now, I fortunately had the experience of one of my students who was a Barney fan. He has autism, and
really? He has autism? Well, so do I. Especially because I have diagnosed with autism since I was 18 months old. Because even though I went to the hospital because I'm allergic to peanuts, and it was a bad feeling about this. So it's going to be a change a little bit. So there you go. Continue.
Does what we call scripting a lot. And so he could go off a variety of different movies and just like go through the dialogue and scripting everything, and sometimes he would do Barney stuff, and like, oh man, you like Barney? That's awesome, and it was just kind of spontaneous. I'm like, I'm gonna call Dean, and I'm gonna see if Dean can talk to him, and I kid you not, we're in this room and another sped teacher with me and another assistant. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have Dean call him, and he's gonna talk to him, and that'd be that. And so my friend Alicia, she's like, well, I want to videotape this, and so Dean calls and proceeds to talk with this boy, and the boy starts doing what they call stemming. There's like shaking, and he gets it like Barney, just and I knew, in a sense, what was about to happen, just the reaction, but I didn't really realize how much it would hit me, and so like we're all crying, just because, like this is truly divine. This is truly a moment of which, like, this boy is connecting, and it's moments like that really help signify to me what Barney's message is and what it really represents.
Good job, Carrie.
Aren't they wonderful?
You said they were. Well, we knew they were. The two BJs? I know. I don't know who's more BJ. Okay, maybe.
Ladies, Sunday. Who's more BJ? The SmackDown.
Will you come back?
Of course.
I would love to.
Would you do it again? I mean, not the show, but the whole experience? If you could.
Oh, absolutely.
They want to dance. I'd have to start exercising as well. There'd be a lot of and getting used to it.
Thank you so much for both of you being here.
Kyle Nelson, Patty Words. And of course,
I love you all so
Carrie,
much.
this is great. And remember, we want you to find us at purpletalespodcast.com, and we do respond to you. We've learned it's very important. Check us all out.
Yeah. We've got a fun one next week. Fun one next week. We're going back. We're going back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have a cast kid.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, from the early series.
Oh, tease. You're a tease, Carrie. Thank you.
Like and subscribe.
Yes. Like and subscribe. You said it.
You can come back anytime you want, Kyle.
Hit the bell.
Oh, fun.
So that was Purple Tales Podcast Episode 7. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far this episode went to be a success. Anyways, double episode for LJPCBM Reacts, episode 200, and let me check here in the comments. We'll see. Yeah, I'm in the wrong side of the episodes, but okay. Anyways, double episode for episode 325, excuse me, of LJPCBM Reacts. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be Public Tales Podcast, episode 8. But until next time, so Jerry saying goodbye, peace out, baby. We get more to react to you guys very soon. But until then, Jeff was saying out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening, but I tried all the time.